What this country needs is a revolution. For the better part of 40 years, every conversation I've ever had about politics with my dad ends up here, sooner or later. Depending on how worked up he gets, I'm sometimes treated to more vivid descriptions. Shackled congressmen, guillotines, blood dripping down the white marble steps of the US Capitol. When he's really on a roll, the veins popping out of his neck, I start to worry he might stroke out. The funny thing is that my dad, Verge, to his friends, is not someone you would imagine as a fire-breathing revolutionary. Full disclosure, before 2016, he did state publicly that Wrigley Field should be razed and the earth salted, but such hopeless rhetoric was once commonplace among pre-World Championship Cubs fans. My point is that Verge is about the farthest thing from a political radical. He had his chance, coming of age in the summer of love, turning 21 in 1967, but the closest he ever came to being a hippie was wearing a floppy hat and an especially wide leather watch band on a camping trip in the Rocky Mountains. At least that's all the proof that exists in the photographic record. Verge was more of a gearhead, spending his free time at Great Lakes Dragaway or turning every other stoplight on Chicago's Archer Avenue into an AirSats drag strip. He got drafted and did a stint in the Army in 1970. While most of his fellow draftees ended up in Vietnam or on the 38th parallel, he shipped off to Germany and did a tour of duty drinking Das Gut Zerndorfer and waiting in vain for the Russians to roll their tanks through the Fulda Gap. Later in life, he became a successful entrepreneur. Our family's annual income even kissed the top 1% for a handful of years. He's been a business owner, a job creator, an American success story. So I wasn't a red diaper baby, the name given to kids who grow up with communist parents. But looking back on my childhood, it was incredibly important for me to grow up hearing that revolution was not only possible, but necessary. And I have my dad to thank for that. It's a reminder that the attitudes we have about the world can matter a lot to our kids. Parents play a big role in shaping the next generation's attitudes about the world. It's possible to pass class consciousness onto your children at a young age. And you should. Speaking of strokes, my dad had a pretty bad one last year, just a little over a month after my mom passed away. They divorced back in the 90s and both remarried, so it wasn't one of those sad stories about an old fella losing his partner. He did lose about 30 pounds during his recovery and never really got back to 100%. He just seemed frail in a way he never had before. This past spring, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I went to visit him on Father's Day, and as he lay in bed, he told me that he was dying. I couldn't believe it. Prostate cancer is hardly a death sentence. At least that's what everybody says. But we just got confirmation recently that the cancer has indeed spread to his lymph nodes and bones. Turns out he was right. His birthday's in September, and he may not live to see it. He may not even live to see this post. But if he does, I want him to know how important he is to me. Dad, you've been my most important role model in my life. As a father, a friend, as a man, as my personal childhood hero. You helped give me life. You shaped me into the person I am today. You encouraged my creativity and told me I was a good writer. You helped build my self-esteem in important ways. Nobody is harder on himself than my dad. Nobody remembers their shortcomings and brings out the lash to excoriate themselves for past failures faster than my dad. But he's always been a good man with a good heart, kind, with a soft spot for children and animals, hilarious at parties, charming and funny, well-liked by pretty much everyone, with creative talents that help propel him through life. Thank you, Dad, for bringing me into this world. Thank you for passing to me a deep distrust of authority. Thank you for making me skeptical of America's phony baloney two-party political system. Thank you for telling me that revolution is necessary. Thank you for passing along your creativity and writing abilities and a genetic disposition for healthy teeth. Thanks for passing your big Fred Flintstone feet to Veronica, because seeing her flat little toes always makes me think of you. You're going to leave a very large hole in our lives when you're gone. I love you, Dad. And because I know you always like it when you hear me say, let's make them pay.